o'clock, and he says, he actually apologized for calling so late to ask if I would speak. And I said, well, you know, you are a half hour later than Scott Bardulis usually asks. Yeah, you're right there with Scott Bardulis. So I wanted to talk a little bit about dreaming. And I wanted to tell you where I was 10 years ago. I was a single dad, and I had been married a long time to my first wife, my best friend, and that didn't work out in the end. And so I found myself a single dad, and I had forgotten how to dream. It was so devastating. Divorce. If anybody in the room has gone through that or knows somebody who's gone through that, just knows that it's like a reset, right? It can take you to the lowest lows that you've ever had, and then you have to decide what to do with that. So I decided that I was going to take Brady and Bethany, who are my kids, and so it took an extended period of time to do that. And then when that time was over, I decided I'm going to look for my soulmate. And my soulmate is sitting in the front row. Diane Dowling of Longmont, Colorado. I'm glad I met her on eHarmony, and I'm glad I drew the circle, because you can draw a circle. You can look around the world, you can look in the United States, you can look in Colorado. I was super busy doing architecture, and I thought, I'll go 50 miles.
Marianne, move this microphone up to it. Just move the whole thing closer to it because they can't hear it. Okay.
So I'm glad I moved my circle to 50 miles because I was living in Arvada down south, and so I would get connections, you know, like the Colorado Springs to up here in Boulder County. And so when I discovered Dee Dee from Longmont, I was like, oh, she looks so sweet. And
she was my dog.
She was with her dog. But anyway, I tell that story because I went from the lowest low in my life to what today I would describe as my highest high. We're having an extraordinary life, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about the process of going from the low to the high. And it has to do with deciding that you're going to dream again. And so in 2007, just before I met Dee, I began thinking about, you know, what's life going to be like in the post-divorce world. And that's when I actually wrote down a dream that I wanted to meet my soulmate someday and have an emotionally transparent relationship with her. And that was a big deal to write that down, because I really believe that when you write things down, that is the first part of making things come true for you in your life. So I'm a big advocate. If you ever ask what's the first thing I should do, I would say, you know, begin to dream and write things down of things that you want to be, do, or have in the future. And when you do that, and I'll show you how to go even deeper with that with this story, then things begin to like come at you from all directions. You become like a magnet. You become, I believe in the law of attraction. And part of the law of attraction says if you call it out, it comes back to you, okay? And so in essence, in 2007, when I wrote that down, I'd like to find my soulmate and have an emotionally transparent relationship with her. And I didn't know who that was at the time. It was like calling out to the universe and saying, soulmate, I'm ready for you. And so then it came, Dee came. And so that's one dream that came true. And so jump ahead to 2014, my son Brady, who's now 29 and he's in grad school in Germany right now, he came to me and he said, hey, Dad, do you have a bucket list? And I said, I have things, you know, that I'd like to do. And he says, are they written down? And I said, well, I'm sure I could find them, on a scrap of paper here, or a notebook here, or a journal there. And he said, I said, why do you ask? And he said, because I just went through this dream weaving exercise that was really helpful for me. Okay, my son was 25 at this time. And I said, oh, well, tell me about that. And he said, okay, so I had to take a short period of time and write down 50 things that I wanted to be, do, or have in my future. And I said, oh, that's good. How long did that take? He said, it took a couple hours. And I said, okay. And he said, would you be interested in doing that? Because it was really helpful to me. And I said, yeah, sure. That sounds like a good thing. He says, will you do it right now? And I said, oh, and it was a Saturday, and it wasn't a super Saturday. So I said, yeah, I can do that right now. He says, okay, find yourself in a quiet place and with a blank sheet of paper. And I said, Brady, you and Bethany have moved out. I live in a quiet place. That's not a problem. So I sat down right then and there, and I began thinking about the answer to this question. And I would encourage you to write down this question for yourselves. What do I want to be, do, or have before I die? So I wrote that down. What do I want to be, do, or have before I'm done on this earth? And I began just doing a brain dump. And Brady told me, he says, Dad, the first 30 are going to be relatively easy because you've probably been thinking about some things. And he says, when I got to 31, it got really hard, and I had to really dig deep, and you will too. And I said, okay, thanks for the tip. And so he says, I'll call you back in a couple hours. I said, okay. So he called me back exactly 2 hours later and said, Dad, how you doing? And I said, oh, Brady, this is a really great exercise. He says, what number are you on? I said, I'm on number 82. And he said, what? And I said, yeah, 82. And I said, I think I'm just going to round it out to 90 because I thought, it's an important number in our life. So I created this document called 90 Dreams That Make Me Feel Good. That will, 90 Dreams for Life will feel good. And that's the second step of after you write them down. That's the third step. The second step is you get a picture. So you can see, you choose a picture for each dream. And then you write down the third thing, which is write down 3 or 4 things that will make you feel good, because we all do things for 2 reasons. Anything. You can choose why you came here today was for a reason. Either it makes you feel good or it helps you to avoid pain. That's why we make decisions about anything. So I actually wrote it down for each one. This will make me feel good because. This will make me feel good because. This will make me feel good because. So I've been carrying around this Word document in my briefcase, and you can see it's tattered and torn and has maybe ketchup stains and things on it. But this became my master plan. It's a very personal document, right? Because these are the things that I want to be, do, or have in my life. And I decided, since this is kind of a master plan document for my whole life, I best put it together, not with a binder clip. And so Snap to Finish came out last year. Snap to Finish is in the YGY photo division. And so I wrote a book. And so I'll pass this around if you have clean hands. Because I just received this from Snap to Finish a couple weeks ago, and in it, I have a spread. So each page is a dream, and if I've checked that dream off, you'll see these boxes. Here's a couple that I've done, and so I checked the box off, and I put the date that it happened. And so I think now that it's in a hardback version, that you can pass that around, that I now have this. This is like one of my most treasured possessions now, because this represents my future, and by extension, Dee's future, because she's my heroine in the book, right? And so I wanted to share that with you. So now you have dreams, and I wanted to want to go back to leadership mastery, similar to how Marianne went to Matt. One of my upline, who's not here, it's actually the upline of this entire room, is Cheryl Morley. And Cheryl shared 5 big ideas. I'll just write them down here. Inspire, dream, learn.
You forgot the P in inspire, baby.
Do more, and become more. So I'm talking about this second one, obviously, because I think it is such a key component. And she read this this quote that I loved, and it's John Quincy Adams, one of our founding fathers. To inspire and empower people to do great things. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. So this ties right into Marianne's talk about being a leader. So how do you become a leader? You do these 5 things. Okay. And so I hope today that this whole Super Saturday will do these 5 things for you. Particularly in this dream exercise. So what do you do after you have dreams? How do you get from here's what I want to be, do, or have to actually be, being, doing, and having those things? And I think there's some really good lessons to be learned about goal setting. So these are big ideas. Some are so big. This is like big, hairy, audacious stuff in this book. And so how do you get from those, someday I would like to have those things, and we all have them, right? You know, some of you that might be young might be saying, someday I'd like to be married, and someday I'd like to have children, someday I'd like to build a house. How many people in this room want to build a house or have a house of your own? Okay, several of you. So that's a big, hairy deal. I have one that I want to design. As an architect, I want to design our home and build it. And it's scary. It's frightening, even though I've been designing and building stuff for 3 decades. To do it for yourself and your family is scary, and it's a lot of money too. So how do you get from that big idea to actually doing them? One is the law of attraction that I mentioned earlier. I really believe the law of attraction is sort of like the law of gravity or the Newton's law of motions, that it's a law. It's things that just will happen. And so I began keeping a law of attraction journal. So every night before I go to bed, I actually write in this little book of things that I noticed were attracted to me like a magnet that day. And I've been doing it for about 6 weeks. And this whole thing is filled with things that have come my way because I desired them to. I either wrote them down like that, or I thought them, or I prayed them. Somehow they all came to me. So it's very similar to a gratitude journal, which I've been doing for a couple of years. And that is simply a tool that, again, we do this together separately, but at the same time before bed, we keep a journal by our bedside. And before we close our eyes, we write down 3 to 5 things that we're grateful for that day. And gratefulness and thankfulness work really similar into the law of attraction. Having an attitude of gratitude is what brings things your way. So that's part of the how of how these things happen. Another thing that I've noticed, that now that they're written down, opportunities come our way. Dee has this picture of Machu Picchu that she had as a teenager or a young person. I put it in our journal here, this tattered piece of document here. And a couple of years later, someone said, hey, do you want to go with us to Ecuador and Peru? And my first question was, are you going to Machu Picchu? And they said, yes. And I said, we're in. Right? So that's kind of what happens too, is that I feel like that that attracted the opportunity. And so you'll see opportunities come your way. Another dream that you'll see in the book is to become a 5-star executive in longevity and talk about a big, hairy, audacious goal. Who does that? Very few people, right, have the kind of success like Matt Morris, like Tom Schnall, like Scott and Julia Fardulis. But that's something that we desire, and it's something that we're never going to quit, Marianne. We've decided, and I hope you make that decision too. Whatever your goals are within your longevity business, I hope you've decided. I hope you've written down in your journal, I am not going to quit. Even if you've never received a check from longevity, write down, I am not going to quit until I get what I want. Okay? So with that, I want to invite my number one dream. And this is Dee. And
you want me, Steve, or
you're next, Joel. And so I'd like Dee to just share with you whatever's on her heart, because she's the one that says, I don't want to get up because I haven't prepared to get up and talk to them. But if you just share, these are our friends and our families. We feel like you all are our longevity family. And so just share, you're a true 2-star executive. I'm very proud of you. And you're on your way to being a 5-star. And just share with our family what's on your heart.
Let me help you with that a little bit. You're not going to get anybody in it with a bigger heart in your entire life on this planet than this woman right here. She is so in love with her husband and their dream of a great life that she'll do literally anything to reinvent herself from being a master's degree, high caliber, corporate America woman. This woman had to really, really peel that onion back, and I've watched her do it. And I keep telling her to stop using her brain, because her heart is so much bigger and so much more vulnerable and authentic. And this woman is the reason this guy is successful. And just talk about it, where you're going together, because it's amazing what I'm seeing you two do, and I love you.
Thank you, Tom. We love you too, Dee.
Yes!
Thank you. And truthfully, this is, in our opinion, the only way to bring people with us where we want to go. And so one of the cool byproducts of this dream book is, as Steve shows it to people that we love and care about, they're telling us which dream they want to do with us. And it's getting them to dream more. And so as you look at those pictures, they may not be your dreams, but they may be somebody you know. And it may prompt something as you look through it that you too want to do. And one of the things that frustrated me about my dreams is I was having trouble with images of my dreams, because a lot of what I wrote down when I did the same exercise wasn't about travel, and it wasn't about things. It was about where I wanted me to be and who I wanted me to become and what I wanted to do differently. And when it comes to, and I know this is morbid, but when my life's over, what do I want to be remembered for? And who do I want to have touched because I took the time? So a lot of my dreams and goals are actually about having some sort of contribution to people and things that outlive me. And a longevity business is the vehicle for that journey to me, more so than the rank or the paycheck. It's what I can do with the money the paycheck brings that will outlast me. And so I really struggled a lot about, well, what do I look like? What do I talk like? How will I feel? And I do truly, one of the things I want is Steve to design a house. And I want to live in that house for a long time. However, I have a stewardship conflict, and I'm going to be really honest with you. It's going to be expensive, and I still do weigh the timing of that expense because, so many people that we know and we don't know, we could impact, even if it's just a little bit. If they could, for example, have BTT. Can you imagine if orphanages could have BTT, what that would look like? If you could imagine if people could have water, what would it be? So it's kind of a different visual in my mind than that. And so I've had a little bit of a struggle, and I have kind of felt like they were so big I didn't want to write them down. They were so big I didn't want a picture of them. And they scare me. They scare me a lot because I don't know who these people are, but I don't want to let them down. But yet at the same time, I do want to plan every step. And I really get caught in this cage. And this is what it is for me. It's a cage. And when I start to think, I'm just going to go out and talk to people today. And then I think, well, what am I going to say to them? Well, what should I wear? Should I bring something with me? I only have an hour. How many people can I really talk to in an hour? And so I go through this psych out. And so if you found yourself in the psych out, it's real. And it's something that I'm needing help escaping, is this cage of having everything having my desk organized, having my files organized, which you don't even have files. And, do I know how to use the app properly? What do I want to say to them when I show them the app? What do I want to send them? And so I have gone through this, and what I've realized, and Tom has really been working with me on this a lot, is I'm not going to get to those people until I get out of the cage. And it involves me hanging out here a lot. So I would say let's help each other hang out up here more and do the exercise, because it really does touch your heart in a way that our hearts need to be touched that way, to be who God really wants us to be when we're done.
Mm-hmm. Isn't she the best?
So she asked me for coaching. So Steve's never asked me for coaching. And one time Steve and I were, right when he retired, we were sitting out on the boat. And I just said, you got to lose the looking good. And I was fully dressed, wasn't I? And what happened?
But you handed me your keys and your cell phone and your glasses.
You just jumped in the way. Why? Because looking good is so overrated. So would like to know what I would make Steve do if I were to coach him for even one day?
Yeah.
Would you guys like to know that?
Yes.
I can show you. It's a kind of a visual. Do you want to know the visual? Are you sure?
I'm not so sure. So I turn the camera on.
I would make him walk around all day long with his pants unzipped, with underwear on. So it just was, and everybody would talk to him because they're so tightly wound. And no one would even tell him his pants were unzipped. Not one person would tell you all day long. But you would know it. And you would be just completely out of sorts with yourself because you're not perfect. And all of a sudden you would be completely with people. And I'm going to zip up my pants now, and I'm everything. But I'm telling you, that whole looking good thing is so overrated. It's unbelievable. And while I'm insanely jealous of him, what you guys don't know, people ask me when in 1988 I quit drinking and I just had a terrible. I worked on Wall Street, and I wore those $5,000 suits every day. When my kids grew up, I made them work at a clothing store called Dress for Less Clothiers, because I wanted them to learn what great clothes were, how they were built, how they were made, what the fabric feels like. If you know Denise, she acts like this was a trap, but it wasn't really a trap, and I let her get away with the story. But when I married Denise, she knew she loved me because I had a subscription to Martha Stewart magazine and W magazine. I don't know if you guys know that great big W magazine that used to come out that was this big and it was all couture. I am a clothes fanatic. Looking at me, you'd never believe that. This shirt right here is called a Xenia shirt, and it costs $175. I bought it at a consignment store because I shop consignment stores because I still love Xenia shirts, but I will never pay that kind of money for them. So I got a consignment shirt because I don't care if there's a booger or a bullet hole in them. I just like them. So the point I'm trying to make is I still love that. So I'm still extremely envious of you. But I also know I can't be Steve Blackburn. I've got to be the best Tom Chenault I could be. And Steve Blackburn could no more be a good Tom Chenault than the man in the moon. It would be more difficult for you and that fly deal than almost anything you could go through in your entire life, because that's just not the way he is, and he would be bad at it. But I want you to think about who your best you is and use that. And the next woman that's coming up is unbelievable. I met her, she was with another company, she was falling in love with her now husband, and she was having all kinds of dilemmas about leaving the other company and being the wife and being in the same business and going through the whole thing. And I watched that leadership evolve. I watched that love at all costs evolve. I watched her commitment to her beautiful daughter. They call her Pickle. I watched all of this. And it's just been amazing to me because she's such a leader. And she's got such a commitment to this business. She's got such a commitment to God. If Grace Place was a multi-level, these two kids would be billionaires because they brought more people to the Lord and more people to Grace Place, because that's how passionate and convicted they are. And with that, come on up, Nikki.